Hello, welcome to the honest-wargamer. I'm your host, Rob. Or is Croaky. Welcome to Stream Street Day 166. Welcome to the show. Big shout out to everyone in the chat who's joined me live on Twitch. So, A Fear of Monkeys, who made a great joke that my voice is a bit karaoke. Datcom, big love to you. I hope you're well. Born Again Manchild. MJ Pegasus, Will Docker, Ultraconda, thank you. If you listen to the podcast, thank you for being a hydro homie and staying hydrated. Love you tons. And of course, always thank you to everyone on the Honest Wargamer Patreon. Couldn't live without you. So as you can see, both of my two regular adjacent show guests are not here today. They're both very busy men, and we've been lucky and blessed that they've been able to give up any of their Tuesdays, let alone some of their Tuesdays, to be on the show with me. So I want to say a big thank you to both Val and Pete. So it's just me today. And fair warning, I've been very busy with building the venue. So when it comes to 40k stuff, I don't have tons to say right now. I want to get into it, but we've done some good 40k shows this week. So fair warning, I think. I only have one thing in my head to talk about, and it's not fun stuff, it's political stuff. So if you don't want to listen to this, now's the time to nope out of the fucking conversation. And I don't want to, it's not going to be to drive any sort of conversation or anything overly. I just want to talk about what it's like being a person in the hobby when there are other people in the hobby who have other opinions different to you, because it kind of blew up online last night or over the past couple of days. And I feel because of the polarization of the universe and the people, and I'm sure you guys are aware of that as much as anyone, it has to be a conversation that, it's the only conversation I have in my head. Whether or not it's a really good conversation for me to have on the show, or I should even have, I'm not really sure, but I at least know that I can trust the people in the Twitch chat to have a good conversation with me, which I think is fun. So I hope everyone's well, by the way. Thanks for being here. Can I get a background on last night's event? Yes, you can. Yes, you can. So I'll give you some background and context as to why I want to have this conversation. It's not serious. It's not serious. And it is serious because it's life. Effectively, what happened was adjacent show host. So there's it wasn't on Twitter. This was on Facebook, of all places. So regular show host Mr. Val Heffelfinger posted up something along the lines of, because he's in Canada, and the science and statistics support that gun control produces lower gun fatalities. If anyone disagrees with that, you're wrong, and I think you're an idiot. So we'll just start there. Again, you might not want to listen to this if you think you hold different views to me. But the science supports it, so it's just the fact that your opinions don't support it. So, I don't give a fuck about your feelings. He posted up something along the lines, and then, unsurprisingly, a bunch of American 40k players generally chipped in with their really bigoted views, and it descended, as it does, because what you end up with, the fence sitting begins. Anyway. So we also had something recently in the Age of Sigmar community where a gentleman, in leaving Twitter, and again, I don't want to get into that too much, said, "All of you woke Warhammer players have driven me out of the hobby." Again, really only a term that's applied to people who feel like, gay rights, people of color, those sorts of people deserve equal rights the same as everyone else. And it was a bit of a weird terminology to use. It kind of really marks you out, in my opinion, as a bigot. And it's a frustrating time because really you do just want to talk about Warhammer. And I know I do. And I'm sure you guys do as well. I'm sure you don't even really want to listen to this conversation. So I understand that. But I also feel like it's in the fucking title here, The Honest Wargamer. If we don't have a conversation as adults about it and we just ignore it, then I'm really not doing my part of the hobby, right? Does that make sense? I'm not being what I'm meant to be in the hobby, which is someone who'll just have the really tough conversations in some situations. So I just thought I'd have that conversation about it. And I don't want to get into who's right or wrong, but I'm just going to say right now, racists are wrong, misogynists are wrong, people that don't like trans people are wrong. Like, I'm just going to flatly tell you that. The point is what's it like when you do have different, because those aren't opinions. What's it like being in a hobby when there's people from different walks of life and you have to manage that and you have to be part of a larger hobby? And I guess my feeling is, like Scriver says in the chat, you should just be excellent to each other. Problem is you can't be excellent to someone who's being an arsehole. And so I don't really know what to do about that. Well, I think I do. Call them an arsehole. It's pretty simple. Stop being an arsehole. But that doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that those people, like, that you can get on with everyone. For example, these people who are posting things on this Facebook thread were sharing what I consider to be like if I was an employer, I would fire those people for the things that they shared. That's what I would do. And I feel that they should, it was disrespectful to human life. It was disrespectful to life. And I feel that that's not okay. Like, at a certain point, you do have to, I've got a very dark sense of humor. Very dark sense of humor. But even I think those sorts of things are wrong. And I don't know where I'm at. I think that I can't get along with everyone. I think life's political. Like, if I was at a Warhammer event and the guy who was playing against me just started saying something that was really anti-gay, like really anti-LGBTQ people, to specifically say how you meant to say it, like, I just call him a dickhead and leave. Like, that's what I do. Like, same way if they were being racist at the table, I'd call him a dickhead and leave. You know, but I wouldn't just be like, oh, I need to get on with him and have a game. I'd tell him to fuck off. And I think as a community, we're starting to do that, which is great, positive. I just feel like I understand the people's feelings who don't want to have that conversation, but I just need people to know that I'm someone who needs to have that conversation sometimes, because I can't really be in a room with people who want to say those things. I wouldn't want to. And if you're one of my listeners who wants to say those things, I don't want you to listen to what I make and create. Like, it doesn't bother me. Like, I'd rather be poorer with people who I like than be rich with a bunch of bigots. Like, it just doesn't bother me at all. Like, I literally think you're a twat, so I don't care. So if you are one of those people, just stop listening, and it's fine with me. I don't know what else to say to you. Like, I just don't give a fuck about you. And I wanted that said, because I don't think, and also Val's not here and Pete's not here, so I got to be on my own. So I got to have a great opportunity to say these things to myself, say these things. And maybe you guys don't want to fucking hear it. Thanks for subscribing, 05 Dean. Maybe you just don't care, which is fair. Or maybe you think, keep politics out of the hobby. But I don't understand how you can keep politics. I don't think it's politics. I don't think basic human goodness is politics. It's like, if I drop my wallet if I saw someone drop their wallet at an event and another guy picked up and stole it, I wouldn't be like, I won't mention that because that's politics. It's not. It's just fucking being a good person. Anyway, I think that's really all I've got to say. Really all I've got to say. Like, I can't be arsed with it anymore, and I don't really want to interact with these people, and I'm gonna just be a bit more forthright about it than I've ever been. So, anyway, let's see what you guys in the chat said. That's really it. Like, there was this shit online, and I saw it, and I thought it was horrible. And what I didn't respect was that there wasn't enough people saying it was horrible. I was like, and also when they're in the 40k community or the Age of Sigmar community, like, I just don't want to fucking interact with you. Like, just because you're a hobbyist doesn't mean that you're carte blanche forgiven for being a dick. That's not how it works. Don't even know if I'll make this into a podcast. Anyway. I can't change their mind. I won't change mine because I don't have to, because I'm American. I won't change my mind on anything, regardless of the facts. Although there's some incredible Americans. Let's put that out. Marks you out. Can't like everyone all the time, says the Wargaming Dad. Yes, how about people who don't wear dust masks when they really should? People who don't wear dust masks when they should are idiots. And we should start some sort of petition against them. I agree with that. How is Val? Is he taking a step back from the show for a while? I think Val is just a very busy man. He's just got a young, beautiful baby, JVP. Big love to JVP. And the Pete also is, they're both working super hard. There's loads of 40k stuff being created at the minute, which I think is really, really good. Anyway, Gus, you did come into the channel at an interesting time. Oh, Jen Smorgan, thanks, man. My general rule is that I don't tend to discuss politics issues publicly. I will sometimes have discussions with people I think I have an open, honest, non-judgmental conversation with. But generally, I don't think many people are open to proper discussion, so I don't bother. Fair enough. Okay. And I'm not looking, by the way, for... is Val okay? Val's fine. Val is fine. He's super Val. He's great. Ramsey. What's everyone else said? Colonel Cabbage. So Callum, everyone just needs to understand de-escalation methods to prevent disagreement becoming conflict. It's very difficult to interrupt people who are being arseholes without escalating it one disagreement. But if anyone can says horrifically off-color things at the table, they should fuck off. Good. We all agree with that. It's incredibly difficult statement to say, leave politics out. Agree with that. Hello, ever missed the drama? Pete, no drama. None. 40k is political. It's political at its inception. Look at the names of the characters. Agreed. Partisan bullshit makes me a world a shittier place, full stop. Some people will now support the views of their side no matter what. Agreed with that. Pass on our love to him for us. Will Dockerall, I will pass on Val's love. Love to Val. And that's where people like Val and Peter, so Val and Peter do the 40k stat show. And therefore, everyone in the world who's into 40k wants to listen. Well, competitively anyway. And so they're at this tipping point where they obviously want to get as much information out to as many viewers and listeners as possible, which makes loads of sense. But they also don't want, to interact with bigots. But, they are a nexus point for people who are interested in the hobby. And even if you just take the normal percentage of people who are arseholes in the world, whatever your feelings on it, left or right, those people who are, zealotly, ferociously involved in what they do, are going to focus on these individuals, and I think it's a tad unfair. But they also they're hobbyists just doing a job. They're not professionals from a company who are dealing with it. I don't know. I just think it's just shitty, that they have to put up with these people and have these people say things, right? Bro, in the US, you can mace and shoot protesters with paintball guns and cops will do it. Yeah, I know. Rob turned Tory because he loves. I have a gaming friend who couldn't disagree with more fervently on politics. We've agreed that we never discuss politics and simply stick to playing. Am I a weak human being? No, Owen, I don't think you are. I would also like to be that person. I know there are people who I don't agree with politically, or about things. But I don't think morality and politics are the same. I think that's the conflation. This is really adjacent to 40k. This is the only opportunity I'll ever get to do this. And I'm worried that it's the wrong thing to do on the show. But it's part of what it is. Someone has to have the conversation for everyone else. We all interact with people who, let's take just jokes. I know some people that don't like some other people because they consider the jokes that they make to be too misogynistic. And I know other people who think that those people just need to get over themselves and just grow the fuck up. And I don't really have... in that situation, it's not political. It's just a sense of humor. And sometimes those things that are said, I'll give you a good example. I occasionally use the C word, right? C-U-N-T. And ultimately, it's a quite derogatory term towards women. And I shouldn't do it. And I catch myself every time I do it. And I shouldn't do it. And this is my opinion. If you don't think I should, whereas I've got other mates who are just use the word, it's fine. And I've got other friends who are don't use that word. And I think not using the word is the right thing. So I try not to, but sometimes I do. And it slips out and I don't think because I grew up pretty working class. It's fine. And ultimately, I respect that it's the wrong thing to do, but I'm well, whatever. But I do work hard on it is my point. But sometimes we're at tables. I'm also loud. This is turning into more of the overarching conversation. I'm really loud and obnoxious. So when I'm at a tabletop, I'm loud and boisterous and I do all these things. And ultimately, other people think that that's fucking awful and they hate me. And I completely understand that. And I get it. And you're screw this guy. I don't want to talk to him. He's the worst. I get it. Just because, and that's got nothing to do with how we feel about politics or morality or anything. It's just got everything to do with character types. And I guess what I'm trying to say is maybe just find your tribe, find the people that sync in with you if you can, and support the people around you who are trying to make your community better for everyone. I think that's really, really important. For me, not agreeing on politics is like whether you think Brexit is a good idea or not, whether people of different colour or sexuality deserve to be treated equally as a moral position. Agreed, not politics, unless you're a complete fuckwit. Agreed with that. The only way is ethics. I find it incredibly hard to keep my mouth shut to shitty or reductive behaviour, and same with political leanings. I do wish I was able to keep more quiet at these times. Agreed. Society sadly has to learn how to deal with the fact that social media gives people the instant ability to interact with people they have never met in a fashion that doesn't allow proper discussions and only arguing, whilst existing in echo chambers with no challenge on opinions. Okay. Robbie is kind of a C word, says Scrippo. Anyway, we need less tribalism, though, says T-Man Cash. So I'm not arguing for tribalism. I'm arguing for someone to find your tribe, like who operate at your level, who work with what you do. Like, and I think finding that support structure for yourself is fairly important. Because I really do think it. Anyway, like, I don't really have much to say beyond this. I don't think it's meant to be a particularly long subject, or it's not meant to be. I just think that there are some real shitty people, and I don't want to interact with them. Like, when I was seeing some of these posts that were being posted yesterday, I was like, what if they're a big deal in the 40k community? Like, what if I want to go over and stream next year, and I end up like, you know, they're a TO of a major event and I want to stream it, and I'm like, well, fuck them. Like, fuck them. Like, I just don't give a fuck about them. I'm just not interact with those people. I already interact with so many people who are brilliant, and I'm okay with it. Does that make sense? So I'm fine, and I wanted to just draw that line in the sand, that I think it's important for people to be nice to each other, and it's important for people to be accepting of everyone else, and that's really it. I don't know if there's anything else, so I'll accept questions from now. But that's the only thing I had in my head. I spent 14 hours working on the venue yesterday, did so this morning, and I will be till midnight tonight, so which is in 12 hours time. So I've worked all the hours of every day for weeks now, launching for Super Series, which is really exciting. Monday's the first band show. It's really cool. I'm looking forward to it. Like, a big hype. And maybe I shouldn't have talked about this thing, but I can't not, right? Can't not. We all have masks. The only people who really have the ability to say I'm staying out of this are straight white guys, which is me. Like, I have all the privilege in the world. Like, I'm a straight white guy. I'm 6'2". I've got all of my faculties. I don't have all of my teeth. I have all of the privilege, apart from being rich, that everyone in the world. Oh, Fear the Monkeys, thanks for subscribing. I have all of the faculties that a human being could want or need to, like, have all the advantages in the world. And I should use those advantages to make sure everyone is okay. Be that women in the hobby, be that people of colour in the hobby, be that people, like, trans people in the hobby, or like anyone in the hobby. Like, that's my job, right? Okay. That's it. That's all I've got. I just wanted to say that that's what I'm going to be here for. Like, I'm mainly going to talk Warhammer. Mainly. Like, in fact, 99%. But I haven't done any Warhammer for a couple of weeks because I've been building this venue. Like, once the Super Series is up and running and I've got a venue to play Warhammer in all day, every day, I'm just not going to shut up about Warhammer. So, you got to deal with this today. You don't have to be posh to be privileged, Rob. No, but there is one other privilege that I don't. The only privilege I don't have is being posh. Well, not even being posh. You can be poor and posh. I'm not the son of a billionaire. How's that work? Use that privilege as a platform. Best way. All right. Well, that's my plan. Because fuck everyone else. Like, if you don't like it, fuck off. Like, I'm fine with it. Right. Good. It's not that serious. It's fine. Like, let's all just hang out. Like, and anyone who doesn't like it, fuck them. Is everyone okay with that? Anyone have a different joke? No? Sweet. Because me and Nathan, if you've listened to this show for a while, you know that me and Nathan have got a sense of humor. Like, look at the 40k show. Like, we're completely comfortable with Tom having naked custodies. Like, me and Nick, in fact, encourage it. We're cool with that. I just think everyone should be nicer. And if you're not, I'll fight you. People don't like being told their behavior is shitty, and rather than correcting their behavior too easy. Yeah, I've had my I've had my behavior called out from this show several times. Let's talk about me. Fuck it. Let's dissect me. I've been an arsehole. I've been a horrible person on Twitter loads of times. And I think the people who I've been horrible to, I feel have deserved such behavior. But then that's how other people feel. And so I'd like to be better. I'd like to be more controlled and more thoughtful and better. And I'm trying to be. But that doesn't mean I haven't been. If there are people right now who think that I am a giant arsehole, I could completely see how they've arrived at that conclusion and understand it. It's also terrible. You can throw that stick. I've used words on the show I shouldn't have used. I've used phrases on the show that I shouldn't have used. All in the having a laugh with my mate's sense of humor, not thinking that there's someone at home who might be upset by that. And I'm not like Jim Gaffigan or whatever his name is, who's that dry, no swearing person. That's never going to be me. But then, it's the way that we decided to do the live coverage with no swearing anymore. So dads could watch it with their kids and family. It's the right decision. Am I offended by swearing? No. I was out having a coffee the other day. And I was swearing, and I noticed that there was a table next to me with some young kids, and I was like, I'm a monster. I don't ever spend any time with actual human beings to realize that this behavior is not okay. In this setting, I'm as flawed and as fucked up as anyone. But I'm going to try and be better, is the point. Anyway, it's all my fault, yeah. I know racism is morally wrong, but I don't want to discriminate, but fuck skinks. Says P. Pratt. Yeah, agreed with that completely. Right, okay. Right, let's do all the units we hate in either Age of Sigmar and 40k. Let's do that. Yeah, he did. Gus, Jim Gaffigan did have a great. Also, the reason I think I'm bringing it up because I think it's reaching a crucible of entrenched opinions, and I feel that the things that are occurring around us are bleeding into our life, no matter what we try, how much we try and ignore it. We're all in a national pandemic where we're all staying at home, or we've lost work. I've lost work. We're losing our jobs. Whatever it might be. It's a tough time for absolutely everyone all the time. And there's some people going around masks aren't real. COVID's not real. Don't need a mask. Fuck that guy. If he comes to my event, I'll be fuck off. Disqualified. Leave. It's real easy. Anyway. Right, let's go. Eradicators. Okay, we hate eradicators. Gitley hates inches. Deathwatch units with multiple unit types in. Fuck those guys. Agreed. Marauders are pretty tough. Although I had a less than perfect wobble when I nearly lost a finger the other week. You did, Fish, but you're great. Invasive unit of... yeah. Should we all change from inches to centimeters? That's the real play. I hate Eldar. Biggest fuck you buddies to 40 mil objective markers on a 3-inch aura. I agree with Scrivo. Mixed units of measurements can fuck off. It's not really what I expected. I thought you'd actually go for units. Units of 40 anything. Oh, Rob, that's me. 40k stat center. Are you awake? There you go. Let me see. You've got a massage off you. No, it's nice to see you. Sort of. It's okay, baby. I'm a lot. You could join me if you want, but you might not want your name attached to the preceding 30 minutes, if that helps you out. I went in. You do want in. Okay, I'll call you. Anyone that allies in Lord Croak, also a dick. I agree with that completely. Gotrek can fuck off, to be honest. I think that is true. That is true. Let me call... I think I'm calling Val, 40k Stat Center, because Falcon would use his own Twitch account. That's true. Now, this might break the stream. Sometimes when I call in a guest, it breaks the stream. So if I'm not... Oh, there he is. You're awake, buddy. Hey, buddy, old pal. Hey. Hey. 1 second. Well, hold on. Let me get you in the shot. There he is, everyone. He's there. Val the Heffelfinger. Can we all get some love for Val? How's JVP? Can I get an update, please?
He's absolutely great. He's absolutely fantastic. Still very good. I'm actually like, everyone's probably like, oh, he's a new parent. So stereotypical. No, man, I just fucking stayed up way too late. So that's why I slept in. My son is an amazing person. My wife is amazing, and everything's great. Life is great.
Well, so I had, I'm glad you're here now, because I was wondering if your arm was tired.
Oh, really? From what?
Well, from all of the masturbating that you've been doing.
Masturbating?
Yeah, well, no, masturbating. The way that you have been baiting people on Facebook.
Oh, I don't know.
Thought that one up on the way here.
I'm just trying to help out future HR departments across the world.
So that is what I discussed for the first part of the show, and I'm not gonna drag you into it because I don't want to drag you into it. I effectively said that I think some people are arseholes, and as a community we should probably stand up to them. That's what I basically said, but we don't have to have that conversation. I didn't want to throw you in there.
You know what I appreciate is that you said some people. I think that's some really important. If I could do one platitude, it's that it's some people. It's not everyone of a particular geographical region. It's not everyone. And even on that thread, like I was one of the things I was thinking about that fucking nightmare. And yeah, it's like a handful of very loud assholes, and it kind of just makes like reasonable people just recoil in horror. And that's too bad because you get pushed out of. You just assume everyone's like that. You sort of open the door, you get big poop blizzard in the face, and you shut the door again. You know,
poop blizzard is a much better way of describing it than I described it initially.
Use the term shitstorm. I don't know.
But yeah, I did. Yeah, it's a tough one. I actually spoke about it earlier because I didn't want to, because I understand and I believe that like being confrontational with those sorts of people like is in of itself maybe a self-destructive act, I think.
Sorry, say that again. I accidentally looked at the chat.
It's okay.
What's the self-destructive act?
Well, even engaging with those sorts of people in a way is a self-destructive act because you like there's the rub, right? You see someone being an arsehole, wherever that might be, and you think, well, they're just an arsehole, I'll leave them to it. Problem is, though, is like they're normally being an arsehole to someone, and you can't like, and it's like how much. I'll give you an analogy as a doorman. So when we were a doorman, we were told to never leave the door. So as an example would be a fight would kick off inside. We would stop the fight. We would throw everyone outside. And if they decided to fight outside, like, whatever, like, live your life. Like, that was not our jurisdiction. Does that make sense?
Right.
Like, it wasn't our thing. But several times, and I remember one time specifically, there was a fight down the road. And some guy just started stamping on some other fella's head. So I fucking ran down the road, like, threw him on the floor, like, just stood on him until the police came. Because he was trying to kill someone, and at that point, I like ignoring kind of the rules of engagement for my job. Like I couldn't watch someone have their head stamped on, like it wasn't okay.
Yeah,
and so I guess really, when like is a Facebook comment even remotely the same? Of course it's not, but it's behavior that is not okay, and I don't really know. Do you know what? Here's the thing. I think I'm at. I don't know as a content creator how to engage is what I'm trying to say. That's, I guess, where I'm at. Like, as my initial response is just call them all dickheads. Like, straight off the bat and tell them I don't want to be a part of you or you to be a part of what I do. That's where I feel. Do you have any grown-up advice for me? Or do you think, like, what do you think?
I don't know. I've felt this has been a bit of an eye-opener for me, you know, also about, like, you know, where a few people stand. But there's a sort of an obvious person, and you know, kind of infamous troll who makes a massive contribution to the 660 comments. And I am one of the few people who but in my friend sphere who haven't blocked him or like just unable to see it. One thing that fascinated me was that a lot of the people interacting on this, it's just 660 comments over, which is ridiculous. But anyway, a lot of the people interacting couldn't see each other because they're already blocked. You know what I mean? Like that's sort of where the only way to sort of survive is just turn the volume down. But anyway, there's this one person who I haven't blocked, and it's hard for me to come out of this. It's hard for me to think that engaging is the right way to deal with it anymore, because he made actual threats to people, and before it was to me like he was an asshole in the way that he would phrase things, but at the same time he did seem earnest. But if you're a passionate fan of the Second Amendment and you make threats to people, like, no, I don't think that person should be engaged with anymore. So yeah, it's disappointing, and I don't know if there is a right way. I do think that within limits, there are people, because there are lots of people on there that clearly are not in my viewpoint, who are able to have make reasonable comments and have reasonable discourse. There's just some dudes who love to poo in their hand and whip it across the room, or worse. That's kind of making it sound silly. I'd say worse than that. They have become very callous, dark people who have lost touch with their humanity and others' humanity. And that sounds heavy, but that's real. And they do it with their names attached to it. Like Val Heffelfinger is not a real person. A lot of these people are, and I don't know. It's disappointing, and it is hard to know when, jumping into that fight is worth it, and when I guess that applies to the Dorman thing too. If you got two meatheads going at it who friggin' get kicked out of your bar every weekend, and one of them's getting their head stomped in, do you still jump in? Probably. I think that's
like we jumped in more than than was prudent, probably in most situations, and it feels like it's the only thing you can do. Like is my point, and the reason I brought it up, and I'm sorry that I have, but like you can't there was a lot of people involved in that. I know really we're just talking about a Facebook thread conversation, which is pretty shit content. But I also think I think it speaks to a larger part of the hobby, right? In the you're like, and that's what I spoke about earlier. I was like, it's tough when you're in a group of people and you don't necessarily agree with all those groups of people. But when you don't agree with those groups of people because they are generally acting or being bigoted, then it's a really tough environment to be in, and not like you feel like you have to say something, which is, and I'm trying to be a more reasonable person, because that isn't how I feel. How I feel is to go all the way. Does that make sense? Like all the way.
Sure. Yes, of course. And how could a person with some sense of social mores not feel that compelled? And one thing that this, when I'm thinking about, what is the value of this hobby? It's, I don't know, maybe I'm like, sometimes I think about weird communities, right? Where and a lot of these things are like a lot of these fringe, what we would hope remain a form of fringe ways of thinking, whether they're very extremist views or backwards thoughts about science or whatever. A lot of them to me are people searching for connection and community. And unfortunately, the internet can be a source of really, really good connection, where you have genuine, wonderful people that you run into with common interests that are not harmful. Warhammer, I think, falls into that category. And we can share all these ideas about this thing that we really like, and we get to meet people that, have a common interest, and also, are not the same as us necessarily, except for white male. We're all white males for the most part.
Most of the time.
But outside of that, we got every flavor. We do have every flavor of that particular brand of vanilla, and it's to me, I've always tried to just say, well, hey, everyone who's hanging out in this clubhouse, they're not on 4chan or like losing their mind on an incel page. And then that's true and it's not true. Right? And I think hopefully like something like Warhammer, maybe this is what GW, maybe it's the note they missed, but it's not our jobs to fix society necessarily, but it is, I think, our jobs to be decent human beings. I think really the question is how far do you let it go to try and, I don't know, engage with someone who maybe is falling off a cliff into some dark shit. How far do you try and engage with that person before you say, this drowning person's gonna drown me?
Yeah, I think so.
And I think.
And then also like the propagation, like, so when you talk about the community or the communities, like, so I know that there are groups where people won't be in because they feel like that they allow unnecessary. Well, I don't know why I'm being so fucking cautious right now. Just because you're here, I feel like there's another person in the room, so I've become an adult. No, bigoted. there are bigoted dickheads in some groups, and the admins run them, and then you end up with a load of shit talk. Like, and then there are others where they're not, and people are like more well policed. Like, I'm the admin of the. I'm an admin, sorry, of like one of the largest Age of Sigmar groups. Like, and like I'm like fucking like I never get to the like. There's loads of other admins as well, so I rarely get to it. But I read it, and I think I'm fair. I like look at it, and I think if it's anything close to not okay, I'm just like, cool, banned forever. Like, it's just real simple, because I feel like that's the right way to deal with it, right? And I understand that creates like an echo chamber, but it creates an echo chamber of just good, kind thoughts. That's not a bad echo chamber to be in, right?
Yeah. No, absolutely. And I think, well, because it's a form of policing, right? MJ Pace is talking about how adding your thoughts is adding fuel to the comments. And a lot of people are just trolls. They enjoy poking and making people upset so that they comment, and like they will use a lot of they will do whatever. They'll post whatever awful shit they can think of on here, and it's just like that to me is just a form of I don't know, childishness, immaturity, awfulness. Not understand, like, it's that empathy thing. Like, I think one of the important things about like the schoolyard experience, which was awful for me, like in elementary school, but like at least those people had to like see me be very upset, like they had to risk an actual, scrap on the monkey bars or whatever, like it was, there is something about removing that human element to all of this that makes things a little bit more easy to be awful, which is, again, too bad. But yeah, for me, I don't know. I don't think there is necessarily a good answer. I think for this particular post, I think it was good to just let it run. Did you read what I wrote? Did you tell people what I wrote?
No, that's the thing. You wrote almost nothing inflammatory. Like, I that's the thing I like. And I didn't, because I didn't want to throw you under and say it was you. I wanted to maybe just have the conversation on my own, because I was a bit. Go on, after you.
Well, no. So it was a rhetorical question, and it was sparked by the fact that in the United States recently, there was an incident where a child, literally, went to a protest with a form of firearm that I mislabeled in the comment, killed a couple people. And then immediately followed that in Portland there was a big caravan of opposite-minded people who rolled through. And just before I'd gone to sleep, I read a story about one of them getting shot by counter-protesters. So I would say that's probably my team shooting one of the others. And then it occurred to me that I wonder if now is about the time when it sinks in that maybe everyone shouldn't have an assault rifle. And and I thought that was.
I don't think that's even a hot take. I think that's like...
It's not a very hot take.
It's
like
not a hot
maybe
take at
people
all.
Really upset shouldn't have powerful firearms is essentially my thought. And interestingly, and this is something I found fascinating, there was almost like a conditioned response to this, which was fascinating to me, which is that I was corrected 5 or 6 times that an AR-15 is not an assault rifle.
Well, it's because it's specific. Because like they've spent so long lobbying to make people like, so they've tried to desensitize the audience or the Americans to be like, no, it's not an assault rifle because that is a specific classification. It has all of the hallmarks of such, but it isn't that. And the reason that they don't want it to be that, or they don't want to have that conversation, is because like that is in some way dangerous. But like you have like soldiers who are just like, look, I was literally given that when I was overseas. Like,
hold on. So first of all, to anyone who's making that point, you know what, Rob? You spent the first year of this show trying to get common language going. Mm-hmm. Scrivo knows what's up. An AR-15 is in fact not an assault rifle. This is true. What blew my mind though is that in the face of this comment, that's what mattered for a lot of people, was that this is like the type of weapon was what was the fact that was semantically wrong, which I will accept, no problem. That was what immediately became a topic of conversation right off the hop. And that was like first like because it's just an immediate, what do they call it? Is that a straw man? Or is that like I don't know. That's just a missing the fucking point, like, and it's clearly something that happens all the time. And also, guys, if a manufacturer makes a gun, and they were called Armalite, and that's what everyone says, AR stands for Armalite. Well, it could also stand for assault rifle. And a famous assault rifle is the M16, and this is the AR-15. So, guys, if it's not literally an assault rifle, they certainly want you to think it is. And anyway, it's and it's not. Look, I don't care. Like I don't have any like impact on whether or not people have these, whether they should have these. Like I can have that conversation, but I'm not gonna fucking make an impact on that world. What was just depressing is that was the point that became the biggest thing. Is like, what kind of gun was it? Like, that's the big deal. Instead of, should everyone have guns when we're trying to resolve some pretty important issues? And this isn't just an American issue, by the way. This is spread everywhere. That same day yesterday, I was reading a statue of our, so-called founder, Sir John A. Macdonald, had been pulled down in Montreal. And that's heavy because that is a what they might call problematic piece of Canadian history, which is, one of the most important people in the foundation of this country was a bigot and a drunk. He was not a nice man in a lot of ways.
We had a protest here in the UK about not wearing masks in the middle of England, in which neo-fascist flags were also being like. It's weird that they always seem to follow the same suit. It's weird that the gun advocates are the fascists, are the racists, are the misogynists, are the people who don't believe in masks. They're all the same group all the time. Like, and they follow. It's a non-belief in facts. But like, I didn't really want to make it about the specifics. What I wanted to make it about was like, how do the community and how do people interact? Like, and what did I feel? And I felt as a content producer, like, there is a large content producer, and again, I'm not going to name drop him, who like scaled back his social media presence, because whenever he put up something on his social media about his thoughts, because of the work that he does and how many people are attracted to his Facebook page because of the content that he produces, he scaled it back because he was just getting so many outrageous, outlandish, slanderous, offensive kind of retorts in the comments to some basic human rights stuff, like some pretty simple stuff, that he scaled back like his involvement in posting anything, because it's a sensible business decision. Like if you're trying to make money or make a living, you do want money from as many places you can get. Like, and so there's no criticisms from me. It's just not who I am, and it's not what I can do. Like, I'm very comfortable with people knowing how I feel and what I know. Like, and I'm just like, I just think you're a dick. End of conversation. And it doesn't bother me. Like, if I can't make content anymore, like Pete's a really good example in the chat. Pete Pratt. So Pete is based in Northern Ireland. And I'm not sure if anyone's aware, but them in the Republic of Ireland at one point had a bit of an issue. But I've been over to Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland to do streaming. And the guys travel up and down the road to see each other. And, like, honestly, you can't tell that there's any... And I don't feel that there is in any way animosity. It's a group of great individuals that love each other, that take the piss out of each other, and they're super fun. And they're just the nicest guys. And there's an English fella, like, so when the Age of Sigmar Six Nations was happening last year, I had the Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. They were doing the pairings against each other, and I was in the middle. I was like, here I am, an English fella between Republic of Ireland and Northern Ireland. This has never been a problem before, ever. Like, and we were all cool with it, right? Yeah, we were all cool with it. They were just some of the like nicest people, and it made me think and realize that there just isn't division between people unless people try to create division. Like, you could see that as maybe there being an issue, but I just didn't feel it. And Pete says that they're great people, awful at Warhammer though. Yeah, agreed. And I just wanted to express that I've been in situations that I think have been difficult or could have been difficult, but they weren't difficult at all. In fact, the opposite. Probably some of the nicest people you want to be around.
Yeah. And I guess, those people have a culture that have the benefit of the hindsight of, hundreds of years of open conflict, and certainly at least a good 100 of very real civil strife, atrocities being committed against one of those groups for the 20th century, 19th century. It was awful. And so that's real, right? So like that is a legitimate thing. And so there were people who had probably quite legitimate grievances in that particular conflict. Not saying that there aren't legitimate grievances in what we're talking about right now, but in that one. And yet you're saying here that there is, at the end of it, some reconciliation at least, or at least some ability to coexist. They found a way. And that's where I always find myself drifting in this topic is, after the Second World War, we prosecuted a lot of Nazis, for example, but there were a lot of people who were just regular people who were also Nazis that also then participated in society until they died. Like fascism as an idea no longer was acceptable, and then a lot of the people who went along with it were able to go along with a reasonable way of living, I assume. You know what I mean? And what I'm getting at is like there has to be a way. There has to be a way to progress through this and not lose all these people. You know what I mean? Like, it doesn't have to be like, it can be where eventually cooler heads prevail. It can be where, like legitimately talking to one another gets somewhere. I don't know if it's a social media thing, just not being very well set up for this. It's like everyone kind of has to learn not to send an email when you're angry, whereas like social media is literally predicated on sending the email when you're angry.
It is. And the algorithms support that too.
Right. So there is something to that I think, you want to talk about systems. Well, we depend on a couple systems that really do drive us to hate each other. And I think those people in the masks on the step of whatever in the UK, and that is disturbing. The only way to describe it is it's disturbing. But the mask thing has become like the jersey of your sports team. Like it has been made a symbol of by some what you believe in, rather than a device used to reduce the risk of transmitting a horrible disease. They could just as easily be people who like refused to wear condoms in the 80s. You know what I mean? Like, it's a similar group of assholes. And there are probably a handful of those people on those steps that are really fucking passionate, and the rest are along for the ride. And I think the challenge is finding the people who are along for the ride and getting through to those people and getting them to maybe not say and make excuses and say, oh, well, it's just a joke. Oh, well, it's, we're just having a laugh or whatever. Like standing up casually to the like insipid stuff, to the people who are not necessarily like waking up every day and thinking about the definition of what an assault rifle is, but all of their friends do, or like they perceive all of their world to think that way. So they just parrot it and they repeat it. Like those are the people I think that need to be engaged with. And I guess getting back to a point I made is like, there are also the people who lead that fight. And those are the ones I think that you have society will have to find a way to either to deal with that conversation. Because I don't think we can lose this fight.
No, and also
reasonableness cannot lose.
No, and also we are that reasonable. Like this is the thing as well. Like some people talk about all of this like it's somehow a nebulous other. Like the hobby, I get for people that they want to hobby and ignore all of the terrible stuff that's going out. But unfortunately, like it's a part of like a society, it's so important to be a part of that, have that conversation and be involved. Like the thing that I love most about Warhammer, Val, is all of the people that I meet.
Of course.
Like that's the bit. Like I listen to people talk about all of their lives, where they're from, what they've done, from all walks of life. The thing I hate most sometimes in someone's like, I do a pretty boring job. I'm like, you'd be surprised how incredibly interested I am in basically everything. Please tell me what that thing is. Like, and then they tell me, and I'm like, cool, I didn't know that thing existed. That's fun, and it's great. I feel though, so like, how can human life and their interactions and stuff not be like I feel like computer games have got less involved in this conversation than Warhammer games or Warhammer like generally. And I feel that because, like, it's a guy behind a screen with a fake username. Like, not all the time. You've got guilds and clans and those sorts of games. Like, but Warhammer is always about people. I'm always making a community, building a club, getting a team together, like, playing at an event. It's always about people. Like, there couldn't be a more relevant conversation to our hobby than people because it's what we do. Like,
I think fundamentally, like you can't, and this is actually, I don't know if you noticed, I feel like vitriol in general on Warhammer comments, and again, it's a perception thing that's super anecdotal, but like we had Alex Harrison on our show, and I don't want to mix his name up in all of this because it's strictly Warhammer related, but he's an unpopular sometimes guy, and I will be honest, I don't know, I will say I'm an apologist at time, but we've had him on the show a bunch of times, 40K Stat Center, because he's won a bunch of tournaments in the last year. And really, there'd be like a comment or two about like this guy's an asshole. And guys in the chat, we don't need to start that conversation. This is just to illustrate a point. These days, he was on our first show back, and there was a lot of anger about it, right? That we would have a guy like him on the show, and after this, I feel like there are a lot worse that we could have on. But nonetheless, like, but it was just the vitriol was a lot, and I think maybe part of it is that we haven't been seeing each other. You know what I mean? Like the fact that in 40K you actually have to you literally go to a place and you interact with people. There is a degree of civility. Because we're not roving around, like, because at these gatherings, we're gathered there by the common interest of 40K. We're not gathered by the common interest of whether or not we like to wear a mask. In fact, one of my favorite things about this hobby is that in order for it to exist, you got to wear a mask. Right now. Like, that's just table stakes. Whether or not it's right or wrong to hold the tournament right now, in order to play Warhammer, even if you're at your buddy's house, it's probably a very good idea to wear a mask. Mm-hmm. And so people I've like in the States, in some of the tournaments we looked at, I know that those rooms, they don't want to be wearing those masks, but they are. So that's, to me, immediately a really beautiful thing. You know, like immediately that is a socializing thing that 40K has literally done in the case of, 100 people maybe, but they made it that, like, look, if the only socially acceptable way for you to walk in this door is if you're wearing a mask, and instead of, and maybe there are people who had tantrums, but for the most part, people said, I'm willing to do that so that I get to participate. And that sounds like fucking elementary school logic, but is literally like a really tangible example to me of something good that can come from having a positive social connection that brings people in. Now, there are a lot of people who are making comments on this thread that I suspect, would be the type of people who would show up and throw a tantrum about wearing that mask because it is a marker of other circles that they're a part of. And I think those types of people, knowing who they are is helpful to the rest of the crowd. Because we want maybe the people who might say, yeah, wearing a mask is stupid, but I'm willing to put it on. We want that kind of mentality. Like, you want to continue engaging with those people because they are willing to compromise or to understand, why you might do that. And if it's a selfish reason in this case, I would like to do the thing that everyone else is doing, but I'll wear this mask. Fantastic. That at least gets them in the door, and you can engage with that person, and you might be able to have a reasonable conversation. You might be able to de-escalate tensions. You might be able to have, a Republican Irishman, a Northern Irishman, and Rob in the middle, sitting at that table making jokes.
I was the only one dressed, I'd like you to know. Everyone else had their tops off.
Well, leave it to the English guy to leave his clothes on.
I know, right?
But you know what I mean? Like, that if you want to talk like the value of 40K, and I do struggle with this as is this a frivolous thing to do with my life and my time? I spend a lot of time on podcasts thinking about this and doing that. There are lots of, I could be engaging right now in civil society. They could use reasonable people, I'd like to think I'm one of them, and I do this instead, probably because I find that world pretty overwhelming. But like in this world, we do have the opportunity to connect with people who are maybe just going along with shit that's evil. And that made me emotional, but nonetheless, I think that is something we can do.
Yeah, we can. Yeah, we can, brother. We can. And I agree with you. And I feel like as a community, like, I think that's the strong element that I recognize about you and Pete, and I recognize about everyone else. Like, I think almost all the community leaders to a T, like, are, like, to some degree, like, trying to push that envelope, and that's important, like, and to remember. But I think maybe the conversation that I wanted to have today, and I thank you from my heart for having, is that, and it's not a conversation I want to have continuously. I want to just have this conversation this one time. Like, I want to have this conversation one time, and next time talk about how stupid the app is. Like, I do want to say that it has to be had. And if you are listening and you think, I can't be asked, or I don't want to, I just want to escape, like, I get it. But also recognize that, like, some other people use this to escape, and then they still feel that outside pressure or that outside shit because other people bring that in. Like, the community should be a positive, healthy, and vibrant place, but it is not going to be that. We need to water it. We need to water it, like, grow that flower, and then we need to protect it from harsh winds and difficult times. Like, and that has to be what we do as a group. We have to ask for people being good sports. We have to ask for people to make sure they wear deodorant. We have to make sure that they don't be bigoted. Like, it's real simple. It's real simple, but we we have to do that. And unfortunately, that means some of us has to stand up and actually say some shit. And you're right, like, being positive and constructive about it is the right way to go about it. But also, if you're someone out there who feels like you got to say something a bit more loud, like, I would encourage you to do that as well. Because, and I
just think that there are a lot of people out there, and it was just that concept, I think, is very visceral of, there's a fight going on in front of me, should I jump in? And sometimes I think we need to, it's hard to know when one person, is redeemable in that fight or not. You know what I mean? And I think that's something that we have to give caution to. I think there's probably just, I think we do have to wade through a lot of shit because, like I said, I think a lot of people participate in things that they otherwise wouldn't. If they had more influence from, or if they had more incentive to be better people online and otherwise, then we could hopefully move them to a more civilized way of conversing and engaging with one another. And but there are people, and I think this is something that's really, really needs to be said, that there are people that cannot be reasoned with, and who are poison. And I think if that's the way that they want to live their lives, and honestly, the only thing for your own safety and sanity to do, I think, is to ostracize those types of people. Ultimately, in a situation like this, we can't. There's just sometimes you can't get through, or sometimes that person has malicious intent. And if that is the case, then I think we as a community should probably do just no longer allow them to, throw shit at our door. And that might be blocking them on Facebook or whatever, or not engaging with their comments. Ostracization is one of the most awful and powerful things that humans can do to one another. And I think and honestly, fundamentally, I think this is how we get here, is that people feel ostracized, period. They don't feel connected to anything, right? Anyway, I've looped myself, but in a lot of ways, I'm just trying to process what happened.
That's my way of processing is conversations like this. Like, yeah. That's why, like, yesterday I spent an entire day painting grey, Val, onto wood. Yeah, it didn't get fancy. I watched a load of Brockmire, which if you haven't watched Brockmire, you should. Brockmire is so up your street.
Oh my God, Brockmire. Okay, so here, shifting gears. Let's get to Jason here for a second.
Let's go.
Did you hear the guy who actually did the Brockmire thing? Like this,
no.
So there was a guy who he says I can't remember what he did. It was a hot mic situation, and he said something awful. Can't remember what it was. Could have been sexist, could have been racist, could have been just a swear word. I can't remember what degree of awful it was.
Right.
And he was he was like a longtime broadcaster for the Reds, and I think it was Cincinnati Reds, and it was a situation where it was, oh, people, I just wanted to say I'm very, very sorry about that. And it's a pop-up to center field. Catch is made, 2 out. I'm just very sorry about what I've done and, the words I used. And, he literally did the thing where he just called the play in the middle of his, so-called heartfelt apology.
Like his apology.
It was just amazing. It was, and I was like, that is literally the premise of Brockmire.
Yeah,
which is
it is. Although Brockmire actually has a heart and soul.
Yes.
Maybe. Not sure actually on that.
Was it homophobic? They're just saying homophobic slur, but there you go.
Yeah, which obviously we think is terrible. But the so I was watching that and painting, and then the only thing 40k / hobby related is there's the terrain team, the stats team. Big shout out Ziggy. We're all pulling together on this huge Warhammer project that's going to coalesce next week. Is when everything starts, which is all really it's all really exciting. But I haven't rolled dice or painted a model, looked at an army list. I don't have any time for that. I do 16-hour days every day just on this one thing. And and then the only thing was my friend had a Facebook thread. And my way of processing it, because I looked at it and I was like, this is shit. This is tough. I don't like this at all. This isn't fun. I know that one of the individuals caused an issue at an event recently, which also wasn't fun. And I'm like, what if that happens more in the future? I would be genuinely concerned about that. And I wouldn't know what to do at an event. I do know what I would do, but I wouldn't know what to do that was sensible at an event. I know what I would do if I was me on the street.
And you know what? And to the community's credit, cooler heads seem to prevail for the most part at these things. I've played, especially in the United States. I've played tons. Traveled to Michigan, Georgia, places where these are real hot hot topics, real places. And there are probably people in there who made comments on this thread that I don't agree with. So again, I think it's a civilizing force in the world, having a quality reason to get together. You're creating a chapel of that particular persuasion, and I commend you for the 16-hour days you're putting in. I can't wait to see what happens with that. I did get to play Warhammer on the weekend.
Oh, tell me.
Yeah, I played against my dear friend who's lives nearby. My wife and Chow went up to the for like a little hangout at her mom's place. So I was like, hey, you mind if I go see my friend? And she was like, yeah. So I went. It was great. And we played Custodes versus I was playing my Raptors as Iron Hands. They're still Iron Hawks.
How did they do?
They did great. He's great. He's a glass case of emotion a little bit, just like me. Around 40K, like just goes on emotional roller coasters with it. And like I've talked him down from like it's definitely been like OJ and the Bronco a few times with him. You know, like just like talking him down, like just gotta slow down the car, just pull over. It's gonna be okay. Except it's like not like deleting it from his life and never talking about 40K with us again. And because like there are some of us that like in my little friend group of players locally who we just live in the competitive frame of mind, period. And like they just like, because we're all in that frame of mind, like they just never take their foot off the gas, and it can be a little jarring, I suppose. So he will play other guys who just they just literally, they're not being mean. It's just like the only mode they play is 100%. I'm gonna beat the living shit out of you, but they don't find like there's an example of like extreme Warhammer aggression that isn't malicious. It's just they play that game. Whereas like me and him, we're just not good enough to like really hang, and we lose in deployment in that environment. Right? Like if you're an aspirational top table player and you have some top table skills, you will dummy me and Ian every time. And that's fine. I can deal with that at a tournament, because then I get pared down and I have a more reasonable confrontation. So me and Ian, when we play, I feel like we're well matched, and so we play very collaboratively. I think this is a great way to play, by the way, especially if you enjoy competitive 40K. So I try, and a lot of times he's like fully Stockholm syndromed or like very twitchy and suspicious of what I'm doing, but I'll be like, dude, you can rethink that, or I'll say, are you sure you want to do that? And we'll talk out something so that we don't make the critical error that just ruins the rest of the day. And I think that's really a great way to play, because we both wind up playing better because we're not destroyed by our mistakes. And then once you're destroyed by a mistake, then the next bad dice roll just sends you down this like distant pit of despair. And so like I find that playing collaboratively is a lot of fun. He still lost, but he lost by a much narrower margin, and I think he's getting better at wielding the old Custodes. And I was just running a ton of Phobos because I thought it'd be fun.
Oh, nice.
So I put how many bodies I put on the table? I put 50 Primaris bodies out. I had 20. Yeah, I think it was 50. And then I couldn't believe how much 40K. I couldn't believe how cheap Marines still are. Like when I made I was writing my list. It's like, okay, I'll take 3 Invictor war suits. My 3 HQs. That's 300 points. Like I'm not even at 1,000 points, right? Like I'm sitting here like, okay, well I couldn't fit this many incursors. Oh yeah, okay, that fits. This many I kept being able to add stuff, and then I was worried I didn't have enough, and I didn't bring Eradicators. That's something I didn't do, because I felt like if I brought Eradicators, that just would not have been a game. So that would be something I do against other friends of mine, like Conrad, who's a monster and has every flavor of Eldar that you can believe like exist. And so right now he's rocking like 30 fusion pistols and a Harlequin list, and that's what he played against That's what my friend Ian had literally just played, and and he just got like nuclear. So I would bring Eradicators against that guy, but I didn't bring it to this matchup. I tried to do something that would at least be a fun game, and I think we had a fun game. It was great. Love the train so much. Love train so much.
Yeah, it's,
we had.
Oh, go on.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
You. I was gonna touch on your collaborative method. I actually agree with you wholeheartedly. I think Nick is right in the chat. I think initially, if you've got the time, it's a bit of a problem, right? When you're just meeting up for one game. But I feel like one of the best ways that you and your friends can get better is you put stuff on the table, and it's not a how do you do tonight, babe? It's like, I won 2 games. None of that. It's just like you get together and you hammer out how it all works, and you hammer it out again, and then you kind of like you discuss stuff. It's just like, oh, put that there. I won't be able to see him. And then next turn you can be running onto the objective. It's like, oh, that's a good idea. Work on it together, and then eventually you'll just grow as a group, which is a really good step.
I think because it's not like we're not idiots. We're not like no, we're able to play 40K. It's just like it's in the margins, right, where you win or lose a game, especially if both people know what they're doing. So it's those. So it's those decisions that could be like the critical error where like I do this, I lose. Like those are the ones where like maybe you chat it out, or like if you've got something that's going to completely mother F that person. Like, be like, hey, I got a strat that's going to do X, Y, and Z here. You may not know about it or remember it, even though we talked about it already today. That's something I need to happen for me all the time. And like that, and something like that. It's like, oh, okay, so I won't do that. And what happens is you remember that the stove is hot. For me, like, some people feel that the school is better to like never do a take back, never talk it out, just go as hard as you can. I think in 40K, you can lose so early in the game that if you're just constantly losing in the beginning, you never get to learn anything because you just lose bad. Like, that's what you learn. You learn that you lose bad. So it's, I think, important, like, especially if you're not elite or, learning or whatever, to like play through the game and try not, and like, if there's like a critical mistake moment, try and find a way out of it collaboratively. I think that's where it's good to talk things out.
Yeah, I think I like knowing how. I think one of the biggest problems with Warhammer, both game systems, is knowing how to learn. You have to learn how to learn before you start learning, which I know sounds a bit.
On the person too. Yeah.
It's one of those really interesting games where some people are like, give me you almost need the Rosetta Stone of how to unlock how you're doing before you move on to what's going next. And I don't think that when I first started, I always looked for loads of articles, and there were never really good strategy articles. There was always just like do X, and I'm like, well, it's not do X. I need to know like sort of broader strokes, but it's taken time, I think, to understand that for myself, and that's why live coverage for me is that answer, because you learn a lot, you see a lot, you know what's going on. All right, well, it's been a pleasure, my friend, talking to you. Thank you so much for coming on the show and talking about something fairly challenging. So I appreciate that completely. You got any big shout outs? Anyone you want to chat to before we head out?
No, just shout out to everyone out there, even the everyone. Like, I think we've touched on the be kind to one another theme on the show a number of times in the past. I continue to espouse that position. Be kind to one another. Try and engage, but protect yourselves too. And outside of that, Stat Center is attempting to get another episode out. We're 2 weeks now of not having one. We're trying. Last week we just, both me and Pete got interrupted a couple times and weren't able to record. So maybe this week will be different. I don't know that there was anything super awesome to cover from the weekend, but we'll find something to talk about anyway.
Good. All right. Well, it's because it's always nice hearing both of you. I want to say thank you to the Twitch chat for listening. And to anyone who has listened to what I've had to say, everyone on Patreon, thank you for supporting the show, and thank you to everyone who listens to the podcast. My hydro homies, I couldn't do it without you. Stay hydrated. I am sorry if you weren't very happy with what I said, but I'm not sorry about what I said, and I never will be. And that's an important point to make. I want you all to have a good day, and I want you all to be okay. But I like this community, and I like being a part of this community, and the part of my community that I'm going to be in is going to be very open and inclusive and helpful and supportive. and that's what I want the world to be. And so that my little slice of it, at least, if you'd like to be a part of it, is meant to be that. So if you'd like to, jump on board, and we'll all make the world a little bit better. Our bit, at least. Like, can't do it all, but we can do our bit. But everyone have a great day. Look after yourselves. And if you could be more like Val every day, or more like Peter, please do so. And a little bit less like me. But look after yourselves and stay honest. Bye.